Hi fellas, in our previous video we made amazing discoveries. We found that the pyramids in Giza already existed in pre-dynastic times, which means during the 4th millennium BC. What is exactly their date in such case? In Tassili d'Angers in Sahara, there are drawings representing goddess Hathor, which date from the 9th millennium BC. So you see, the ancient Egyptian religion is extremely old. We believe, based on the royal canon of Turin, that god Osiris ruled the Osirian Empire in Sahara around 35,000 BC. Somewhere in this time, his evil brother Set killed him, and Osiris crashed. It is described in coffin texts, spell 1087 and 1085. He crashed on Giza plateau. Description reminds of like spaceship falling there, or a giant decapitated. So let's move one step further. Let's try to explain better the whole composition and the whole meaning and function of this amazing, giant, sacred complex of these three huge pyramids in Giza, Cairo. Based once again on coffin texts, texts from 3rd millennium BC, they describe how the pilgrims in 3rd millennium BC, this complex was functioning as a sacred pilgrimage center. So everyone who was going there was saying sacred formulas and texts, and these sacred formulas, they bring knowledge to the very meaning, the function of the whole complex of the three pyramids in Giza. For example, we understand that it was a special place, like mausoleum with three giant pyramids, under the protection of goddess Nut. She was mother of god Osiris. The pilgrims were praising god Osiris. They were saying, "Hail, O my father Osiris, I came here to worship you." They were going from north to south, visiting the sacred places of god Osiris along the Nile. So from the delta through Ras et Al Giza plateau, next up Busiris, ancient Jiddu, Perusir, and finally they were reaching Abydos in Upper Egypt. All the sacred locations where parts of the body of god Osiris fell and were buried deep underground. From these texts we understand that the Sphinx was part of two structures, two sculptures representing lions. Let there be no mistake about the true origin of the Sphinx. His original shape, it was a lion. These two lions were called Akeru and Ruti. They were placed to the east and to the west of the central pyramid in Giza plateau. That's why they were called Shu and Tefnut, the past and the future, the sun rising, rejuvenating life, and continuing to the west. And there were a lot of underground chambers of other gods, primeval gods, god kings of Osirian Empire, which existed tens of thousands of years ago, before even pre-dynastic Egypt. Like, for example, god king Sokar, he had his Shetait, his sacred and secret chamber under the pyramid, the middle pyramid, so-called pyramid of Khafre, adopted by Khafre. God Sukar was on the bottom, raising in his secret chamber, Shetait of Sokar, underground. Maybe exactly where Biondi found these huge structures. Maybe somewhere there is the Shetait of God King Sokar, his secret chamber. And he was depicted in the Book of Amduat raising the efflux of ancient reptilian with human head. Maybe the Reju, the efflux of God Osiris, the energy of the god who fell there, Osiris, he was resurrecting his spirit, his soul, his Reju, his essence, bringing him back to life. The whole place was a mausoleum on one side of the fall of the crash of the death of Osiris, like his tomb. It was called Tomb of Osiris. There were such myths all the way to the Ptolemaic Egypt. But also it was a sort of place of worshipping his resurrection, worshipping the triumph of life over death. God Osiris fell there, decapitated in pieces, so dead, but he also resurrected. So these people who perceive the three pyramids in Giza as resurrection machines, they are touching the truth about this place. Because God Osiris continued to exist there. God Sukar was depicted in 3rd millennium BC and in 2nd millennium BC, still resurrecting the energy of God Osiris under the middle pyramid in Giza. It was a long tradition and constant belief in ancient Egypt that God Osiris continued to live somewhere in secret chambers under the pyramids. Once again, maybe one day the Egyptian authorities finally will allow the world to see the most amazing structures in the world. I suppose they are either alien buildings or some very advanced previous civilization created these extraordinary underground chambers under the pyramids, which are still, sealed and locked, the tunnels which lead toward them, like the Dubeki tunnel and the tunnel from the tomb of the birds explored by Andrew Collins. The Egyptian authorities, for one reason or another, maybe the world is still not prepared to see the magnificence of this alien, comes to mind, or very advanced previous civilization, that somehow the humankind forgot that before our civilization existed much more advanced civilization. And these structures are there, but the Egyptian authorities obviously think that the world is still not ready to see them. They are not allowing anyone to go there. So, with one sentence, this was the meaning of the holy complex of the three pyramids on Giza Plateau. A mausoleum of the crash site. The pyramids were built by the other Nechiru, the family of Osiris, to hide the crash site of God Osiris, which was under, like in a crater, under the pyramids. Built by the other gods to hide his crash, the place of his death, but he was still living there underground. And this is a monument of his death, but also of his resurrection. And it was a sacred place of worship of God Osiris, place of worship of life itself, a place of the first death in history. For the first time, a supernatural, divine being died there, but the life continued. Just like I believe that Christianity is more recent interpretation of this ancient mystery of the resurrection of God Osiris, the continuation of life after the fall. After the fall, after the death in the tomb, in the darkness, the life continued. The sun bark of God Re continued on the other side of the complex, and life itself continued. So this was the hope for all Egyptians, and they were worshipping this place as a mausoleum of everlasting life.